Hey, welcome back to JG&T. This is another opinion time, and I want to put it out there. This one is kind of special to me. This one's kind of near and dear to me, so we'll see how it goes. Again, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, share, comment. Just be a supporter of the channel. It'd be great. But before we get into it, we're going to dive into it today. Nintendo dropped their September Direct, which they've done every year for about the last 4 years consistently. But Nintendo did some things that a lot of people hope they would do, but they've always been let down. For me personally, I've been let down on a lot of them. There's always excitement, one or two games and things on there, but it's exciting for us 80s kids that were born in the 80s, that grew up in the 90s, and that experienced some of their development of consoles and the transition to 3D consoles. And when they announced mid-direct, because things were okay, and then Kirby we'll get into in a second, which was fantastic, by the way. Really, finally for Kirby, they got something new. They dropped the Nintendo 64 that is going to drop literally at the end of October, which is next month, on the NSO service, along with, which would surprise me, is the Super Nintendo's nemesis all throughout the early 90s, these Sega Genesis games on there, which was a total mind blow on there. And so first and foremost, when we get into this, I'm excited because it's bringing some raw original games that I grew up with, that some of you older gamers grew up with. Some of you younger gamers had no idea what it was, or you've heard about it and were like, what's the big deal? It doesn't look that great. You didn't grow up in a time period when that was like revolutionary, mind-blowing change in flow of play, when everything goes from 2D to 3D. Even, yes, it was very pixelated, very polygonal, but it changed the dynamics how games have been played the last 20 years. And what I'm talking about especially is when I saw, Zelda Ocarina of Time. I remember as a kid going to Blockbuster, picking that thing up off the shelf and being like, hey, I want to play this. And it was like a Saturday. I was in junior high when I had it and all that type of stuff. And I would play it all weekend long, and I couldn't beat it. So then the next weekend you got to go back and rent it again and rent it again and rent it again until you beat it, because it was too expensive to buy at the time, because games were really, really, really expensive during that time. So I'm excited. They also have Mario Kart 64, which with my family was like a bloodbath on like a 4-player split screen on a 27-inch tube TV, because not everybody had big TVs. You youngins, which I appreciate y'all, you guys are spoiled when it comes to TV size alone. Your standard TV size trumped our standard TV size. Our bedroom TVs were 20-inch. You guys have 32-inch as your standard. Our big TV in the house was 27 inches forever. And we played 4-player, multiplayer, Mario Kart 64, and 4 controllers. We'd be leaning with the thing like it worked, and people still do it nowadays, even though it does have that on the new Switch. Not cool, man. Not cool. But I'm excited. And then the other games that they're dropping on there, there's games that are going to be dropping in the future. They're dropping the original Mario 64, Mario Tennis, all these different types of games and stuff up on there, which is going to be exciting. And Star Fox 64 too, by the way. Oh my goodness. My mind can't handle it, but I'm excited. And then 2, I'm excited again to play Golden Axe on my Switch. Now, this service does come with an upgrade fee, and it's going to be a little bit higher fee. It's a little bit higher tier, where you get the regular NSO service and you're getting an add-on. But, and on top of that, we got to add this on here, and this is going to be the funnest part of my day, is the Nintendo 64 wireless controller. Now, the Sega Genesis it was a traditional Sega Genesis. It wasn't much different than the Super Nintendo controller. There's a lot of those little similar style controllers. Both wireless, both awesome. If you're on NSO, you can actually buy them for $50 a pop. I'm going to be buying the Nintendo 64 one because, oh my gosh, like there's just something nostalgia about it for me. That was where gaming just kind of blew up on my brain outside of Game Boy. But I'm so excited to see how people pick up the controller. And and for us, we have it down. We know what we have to do. We know how we have to angle it. We know how we have to use it. But that is the most exciting part for me. And so for me, for the Nintendo Direct, for me, that's the 80s kids, the little bit older gamers, the kind of precursors to like the gaming is a mainstay hobby, mental health thing, different things and stuff like that. This is huge for me, and I'm so excited. Just a list of games that they're dropping right out the gate, and it's coming at the end of next month. And for those of you guys that already have a service, you just got to pay an upgrade fee to have it throughout the remainder of that tier. And then the next year, you just have to pay a little bit higher one to get it. But I'm Not even a question. That's happening. Secondly, in the Direct that I want to talk about too, that I have a good opinion, is Kirby finally, not finally, they've had 3D Kirbys, but Kirby on another generation is finally getting a different look, a different feel, a different gameplay. To me, honestly, when they dropped this, Kirby 3D Fallen Land, it's not 3D Fallen Land, it's Fallen Land. Okay. Whew. Sorry, it's been a very long school day. Today was a very long day. I'm a little bit tired. But I was just so excited with this. I couldn't even watch the Direct while I was teaching. I had to wait till my class got over and then went back and then jotted it down on my notes. I was so excited once I heard all that because people are like, you hear this? And I'm like, quiet, I have to do this. So, Kirby. I literally looked to me like they were taking some of the elements of Mario, what they learned with Mario Odyssey, what they learned with Mario Bowser's Fury, and they're trying to combo it in there because there is 3D open world elements with more of a 2.5D element in there, which is cool. And it really looked like they were adding a secondary aspect, which they had in All-Star Allies, where you can absorb powers and use that within that world. So it's a combo of that. Now, the issue with Kirby is one, how long is it? And two, how hard is it? And so that's kind of the mainstay thing in here that keeps a lot of people from Kirby away. But if you have kids or you just want to have a fun platformer, Kirby's been around since the origination. Now, the difference about this one that I've seen compared to the other ones, the boss battles looked a lot more legit, which is kind of cool. And that's what I'm excited about. That's just, oof. I'm excited for that. Drops in March. Ooh, Okay, and then two more things I want to talk about before I leave you guys here, but these are kind of my opinions. Bayonetta 3 finally coming out. I thought it was Astral Chain 2 when it dropped. When they dropped the dog in there, and I'm like, it's Astral Chain 2, and I'm like, getting all excited. And then I realized, oh, there's no way it's Astral Chain 2. And then it was Bayonetta 3, which is great. I've never been a big Bayonetta fan. I know a bunch of people in a Bayonetta fan. One of the last videos I did on Sunday, dude was chatting with me back and forth in the comments section that Bayonetta was his thing, or those hack and slash type games is their thing. Well, guess what? You're going to get something like that on here, and which it looked great. It looked cool. We'll see what happens when it gets in a broader stance, because this thing's been, 2017 is when they announced it. So let's hope it's really, 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 really polished and really well done, and they're taking same emphasis they've taken on Astral Chain and things like that. Maybe it looked like they had some things that they learned from that and co-opted in. And then lastly, I want to get into Splatoon 3. Splatoon 3, there's a couple elements in there that I don't know if people picked up, but I picked up. It looks like there's some traversal elements in there that weren't in there prior, which I think would be a cool dynamic. One thing I also noticed, the landscape was a lot bigger. The weapons were a lot bigger. The traversing, there's different type of landscapes where you're kind of jumping and bouncing and some floating. They literally almost look like, I was looking at like, hey, this kind of looks like some of the things they're trying to incorporate into like Zelda 2, Breath of the Wild 2, which I know a lot of people are upset about, but that's a whole other thing. But it looked really good, and it looked like there's going to be a longer single-player campaign, because the last one and the DLC to Splatoon 2 was really good. It's a really good strategic game. It's a fun third-person shooter game that kind of gives you a different online multiplayer experience. And it doesn't feel to me, my opinion, that it's not as toxic of an environment. So I'm excited about that. I saw a lot of people upset online because they thought, Breath of the Wild should be here, Mario this, or Xenoblade 3 this. I think that stuff's coming. But you have to keep in mind, most of the stuff that they displayed in here was for winter this year, which basically means their last fiscal year. So that means the end of this year into December, into January, all the way through March. I think it's like 20th. That were those games. I think these games are further out. I think Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 for Lucky is holiday next year. Earliest will be September, but I think it's holiday with the way things are going. But what you're also seeing too, I think a lot of these games are already going full bore before this hit. And then COVID hit. I think COVID's still hurting and hitting things, but they're figuring out how to do it. I think Xenoblade's going to be coming. I think they're going to drop that later. For those of you guys that are Smash people, October 5th, tune in bright and early. They're going to drop the last character, and then there's an Animal Crossing one and stuff in there. But here's the deal. There's a lot of different things on here that were good. It was a great mix of things. They dropped some stuff today, some Castlevania stuff, which I played a lot when I was younger, but it wasn't huge on. Some people are disappointed. Game Boy games weren't on there. Here's what I think is happening. I think Nintendo is really trying to balance their lineup and not oversaturate their very mainstream games, because they've done that in prior consoles. I think they're really trying to balance and spread it out and sprinkle all of these mainstream ones throughout so they don't lose their brand. So anyways, I'm going to kind of leave it here. This is just kind of an opinion of me, but the biggest nerd out moment of the day I had was when I saw Nintendo 64 games drop. I literally felt my junior high explosion when gaming just blew up in my life. awesomely kick out with that. And so, anyways, leave a like, leave a comment. Please give feedback, dude. I love talking with people on through the comments on there. Again, this is going to probably drop tomorrow morning, so this is at the night because I'll be in class when it drops. Got to schedule it. But I appreciate you guys. Keep in tune. I'm going to have more opinion time moments here. But my opinion is this was a really good direct. But I think, too, you can't please everybody. You know, I'm a social science teacher, and the one rule of thumb we teach people is that if you try to please everybody, you're going to please nobody. And in the Nintendo world and the gaming world right now, it is impossible to please everybody. So you got to take what's there, what's good, and then, you know, what's not. And it will come eventually because these people want to make money. And the only way to do that is to sell things to you. So anyways, this has been a long opinion moment. Maybe I need to turn this thing into a podcast. Maybe we'll see. Anyway, so I appreciate you all. I hope you had a good one. Hopefully you enjoyed the direct. Saturday, I'm probably going to be streaming Saturday night. I'm probably going to be streaming Kenna because it's just great. But there's so many other games. 2K, all these games are dropping. Metroid Dread and all these things. I didn't even talk about Metroid Dread. Hopefully you guys all having a good day, good night. I appreciate you all. Again, this is JG&T. Peace.